regarding the Unit 3 content, radiation from rectangular aperture. I was giving an introduction to aperture antenna. Then number 2, we went to field equivalence principle or Huygens principle. Then radiation from rectangular aperture field. Then rectangular aperture antenna, 2 classification, uniform aperture and tapered aperture. And I was also given an introduction to slot antenna versus dipole, complementary to each other. So today's lecture, we are going to see slot antenna. In addition, the advanced topic of slot antenna, then horn antenna and reflector antenna. 3 types of reflector antennas are available. So before going to the current topic, let me give a brief review on the previous class. Introduction to aperture antenna. I gave an introduction to aperture antenna. So these antennas are very much available at microwave frequency. Aperture antenna means opening in a closed surface. So there are different geometrical configuration for an aperture antenna. You can see the diagram here: pyramidal horn antenna, conical horn antenna, rectangular waveguide. Actually, this is a rectangular waveguide where we have done some flaring at the mouth. It has become a pyramidal horn antenna. So similarly, circular waveguide, I have done some flaring at one end of the circular waveguide. It has become conical horn antenna. Resizing the mouth part of the circular waveguide or rectangular waveguide and converting to a geometrical configuration. That means I'm creating an opening in a convenient way for radiation. In such a case, it is called conical horn antenna, pyramidal horn antenna, rectangular waveguide. This one is not an antenna, this is a rectangular waveguide. But this rectangular waveguide has been converted to a pyramidal horn antenna. One circular waveguide converted to conical horn antenna. And we have seen the field equivalence principle, Huygens principle. To analyze the aperture antenna, we need to convert the actual source into the equivalent sources. Then only we can determine the radiation characteristics of the aperture antenna. Then only we can go for design of any aperture antenna at a microwave frequency. So normally our actual sources are antenna and transmitter. So they are replaced by equivalent sources. We were able to find out the radiation characteristics of these equivalent sources. Then only analysis becomes very easier. For that, we went for Huygens principle or field equivalence principle. So I was telling the diagram, this diagram. This one is the actual problem. This is the equivalent problem. We are having 2 sources, J1 and M1, current density, magnetic field intensity. E1 and H1 are the electric and the magnetic field available within the volume integral V1. Within the volume integral V1, V2 is the volume integral outside V1, which is infinite in size as well as shape. And we are getting some electric field and the electric field outside the volume integral V2. We want to determine the radiation characteristics outside the volume integral V2. Further, we are replacing the actual problem by means of an equivalent problem. These sources J1 and M1 will not be there. Instead of that, E and H, some smaller value of E and H will be available, or I can call uniform value of E and H will be available within the volume integral V1. Outside, we are supposed to find out the electric field E1 and the H1 in a particular direction. See the direction N cap. In this direction, I want to determine the radiation characteristics for the aperture antenna. So for that, we are considering the current density and the magnetic field density available over the surface of the volume integral V1, by which we are able to find out the value E1 and H1. So we are converting the actual problem into the equivalent problem, by which we are able to determine the radiation characteristics of the aperture antenna. So this principle is called Huygens principle or field equivalence principle. Then we saw the radiation from aperture field. There is a spherical coordinate system. You imagine the antenna is available here. At this point, there is an opening or there is an aperture available. The spherical coordinate system X, Y, Z is there. But instead of that, we are having one more coordinate X complement and Z complement with respect to the aperture opening of the antenna, R, theta, pi. So in addition to that, R dash, theta dash, pi dash. So at a distant point R, we want to calculate the electric field as well as the magnetic field because of the aperture antenna. So we will have E theta E pi, H theta, H pi component with ER equal to 0, HR equal to 0. Because whenever I go to the far field, I will have only two angle part, theta and pi. The R part will become 0. So the relation between R, capital R and small r is given. We are available with the vector potential A and F. Two vector potential A and F is available. One corresponds to the current density, the other corresponds to the magnetic field intensity. So we are expressing the vector potential A and F in terms of constant N and L, whereas N and L are nothing is integral of J and M respectively. Then we are writing the theta pi component for electric field and magnetic field in terms of vector potential A and vector potential F. Later on, we are combining them. Later on, we are combining both N and L with respect to J and M in the form of E theta and E pi. ER equal to 0, HR equal to 0. We have the component E theta corresponding H theta, E pi and H pi. So these are the equations for the radiation characteristics of electric field and magnetic field with respect to general aperture antenna. This one is for general aperture antenna. Then we went to rectangular aperture. That means rectangular aperture antenna, we are having two groups. One is uniform aperture, another one is tapered aperture. So uniform aperture means there is a closed surface available. So we are having an uniform opening, rectangular opening over the surface, which is having the dimension A and B. We are having the dimension A and B, and we are dependent on the spherical coordinate system X, Y, Z. The total arrangement is available on only the XY plane rather than the other plane. So we are able to determine the uniform electric field in terms of E naught, E suffix A equal to A cap, A Y cap into E naught, where E naught is nothing but the uniform electric field available over the aperture or mouth of the closed surface. Then we got the current density equal to 0. We have some value for the magnetic field intensity. When current density equal to 0, N theta, N pi will be 0. So we are expressing L theta and L pi in terms of M. After calculating L theta and L pi, I am going for the calculation of E theta and E pi, whereas ER equal to 0. When I know the value of E theta and E pi, I will be able to calculate H theta and H pi using Maxwell equation, by which we are able to get the equations for electric field and magnetic field for uniform rectangular tapered aperture antenna, uniform aperture antenna. Now tapered aperture antenna is another category which comes under rectangular aperture. So here also tapered aperture means they see the total closed surface is available, but we are taking only a portion of the closed surface as an opening or an aperture. That is why it is called tapered aperture. We are not using the majority portion of the closed surface of the antenna available. We are taking only a part of the surface. That is why it is called tapered aperture. Here also we are following the same methodology. This tapered aperture is also having the dimension A and B. So here also current density equal to 0, magnetic field intensity minus 2 N cap into E suffix A is available. I am able to calculate E theta and E pi, where ER and HR equal to 0 in the same manner when compared to uniform tapered aperture, by which we are able to complete 3 topics. The first one is introduction to aperture antenna. The second one is field equivalence principle. The third one is radiation from aperture field. And the fourth one is radiation from rectangular aperture, classified into 2 types, uniform aperture and tapered aperture. I was also telling about the introduction of slot antenna. Slot antenna used for the application at the frequency greater than 200 megahertz. So slot antenna, we are able to get the slot on an infinite metallic conducting sheet. When I remove the flat strip, it acts as another antenna called lambda by 2 dipole antenna. Both the antennas are complementary to each other. When I combine them, what will happen? This will not act as an antenna. It will act as a metallic conducting sheet. So both the antennas are complementary to each other. So slot is nothing but an aperture. It comes under the category aperture antenna. So the slot on the metallic conducting sheet acts as a radiator. radiating electromagnetic energy into the free space. We were comparing both the antennas at one shot. This slot antenna produces the radiation pattern in the form of a figure of 8 pattern in the vertical manner. Vertical polarization is available. Whereas this one, lambda by 2 dipole is producing the same thing in horizontal polarization. As I was telling you earlier, both the antennas are complementary to each other. One will produce vertical polarization, other will produce horizontal polarization to each other. So these two antennas are complementary to each other. We have also seen the comparison between slot antenna and the complementary dipole antenna. Polarization seem to be different. One case it is horizontal, another case it is vertical, and the radiation from the backside of the slot antenna and the complementary antenna are of opposite polarity. When you determine backside radiation, suppose you have a radiator, the radiation will be always traveling in the forward direction, but on the backside of the antenna, some sort of radiation will be there, which is available in the form of minor lobe, back lobe, or side lobe. Those radiations of this slot antenna and the complementary antenna are of opposite polarity to each other. So these are the topics we have seen in the yesterday's lecture. Let me proceed to the new topic, methods of feeding slot antenna. Now, how to feed the signal into the slot antenna? So there are three methods available. I will show the diagram. This is method 1. And this one is method 2. And this one is method 3. So there are three methods by which we can feed the signal into the slot antenna. Let us see one by one. Typically, the slot antenna is fed with a coaxial transmission line. So normally, to feed the signal into the slot antenna, only coaxial transmission line will be used. Waveguide will not be used. A twisted pair transmission line will not be used. Only coaxial conductor. So coaxial conductor means there will be an inner conductor and there will be an outside conductor, which are insulated, which are separated by each other by means of an insulator or a dielectric. So we are using a coaxial line to feed the slot antenna. The outer conductor will be bonded to the metal sheet. The slot is a conducting larger sheet. It is having a characteristic impedance of 500 ohm, while the impedance of the transmission line is much smaller. So we have to provide impedance matching. You see the diagram here. Just have a look at the diagram. So we are having two subdivision, A and B. Both are equivalent to each other. There is only a very small difference. The diagram. There is a little difference between these two diagrams. Otherwise, both of them are equal. This one is the metallic conducting sheet. We are having a slot at the middle. The length of the slot is lambda by 2. I am feeding the slot antenna by means of a coaxial conductor or a coaxial transmission line. The coaxial line will have outer conductor as well as inner conductor. Inner conductor signal will be traveling. Outer conductor, see the diagram. Outer conductor is connected to the metallic conducting sheet. So this is a setup for a slot antenna. So once the coaxial line is connected to the slot antenna, it starts radiating electromagnetic energy into the free space. Now the total setup is called slot antenna. But there is a difference in the subsequent figure or the nearby figure. You can see here we are feeding at the center, but we are feeding at off center. That means off center means very near to center. Why, I will tell you. The characteristic impedance of the slot antenna is 500 ohm, whereas the characteristic impedance for a coaxial transmission line is 370, approximately 370 ohms. There is no impedance matching between these two elements. These two elements, one is the coaxial transmission line, another one is the slot antenna. To create an impedance matching, what we are doing is we are feeding the signal not at the center. Instead, we are feeding the signal at the off center. Off center means very near to the center. How do you determine off center? If the length is lambda by 2, your off center feeding point will be lambda by 20. If the length is lambda by 20 from the end, it is said to be off center. So when I feed the transmission line or when I feed the signal into the slot antenna at the off center, what will happen? there will be an impedance matching between the transmission line, between the coaxial conductor as well as the slot antenna. When there is an impedance matching, what will happen? All the energy, all the incident energy will be, maximum energy will be transferred to the slot antenna so that no reflection will be available. If there is no reflection, standing wave button will not be available. For that only we go for the off-center feed. So this method is one method. So we have another method for the application at very high frequency. A slot antenna with a slot cut in a conducting cylinder is most widely used. You can see the diagram. This one is a cylinder. In the cylinder, we are making an opening in a longitudinal manner. That means in a vertical manner, I'm making a cut. In a vertical manner, I'm making a cut. Longitudinal manner, the opening is made. And this one is a transmission line through which I'm feeding the signal into the slot antenna. Because when I feed the signal into the transmission line, through the transmission line into the slot antenna only, it will be start radiating into the free space. Now the total setup is called cylindrical slot antenna. I have taken a cylinder, I have made an opening in a vertical manner. Through the opening, a transmission line is fed so that the signal is fed into the slot. Now the total setup is called cylindrical slot antenna. But I want to increase the gain and the directivity. The gain and the directivity of a basic slot antenna can be improved by using array of slot placed half a guide wavelength apart and placed on opposite side of the central line. So look at figure number B. In figure number B, I have a rectangular plane. The plane is divided into two parts. There is a straight line at the center of the plane. 3 slots are available at one end. Another 3 slots available at the right hand side. See, at the left hand side 3 slots, at the right hand side 3 slots. Totally 6 slots are available, and each and every slot separated by a distance lambda by 2. Why? I want to increase the gain and directivity of the slot antenna. So I go for more than one slot. At a time I go for more than one slot. But the thing is, the slot should be placed in a proper position with a distance lambda by 2 by them. In such a case, the setup is called, this arrangement is called planar array slot antenna. Array means when we are using 2 or more sibilant elements together, it is called an array. Since I'm using a plane, it is called planar array slot antenna. Why? Means to increase the gain and directivity of an ordinary slot antenna, I go for this array antenna. See the next figure. In the next figure, there is a metallic conducting sheet is available. I have made an aperture or an opening or a slot in the form of a circle. See, remember, you can make an aperture, you can make a slot not only in the vertical format. You can go for a rectangular, you can go for square, you can go for pyramidal, you can go for circular also. So any type of opening or any type of aperture or any type of slot you can go for. This one is called annular slot with a diameter D. The external sheet, we have a transmission line here. So through the transmission line, we are able to feed the slot antenna. So when I able to feed the slot antenna only, it will act as a radiator or it will act as an antenna. In such a case, it is called annular slot antenna. This is method 2. Look at figure number 3. Method 3. The third method of feeding the slot antenna. Normally, before going to the setup, I am taking a flat metallic sheet with a lambda by slot radiates equally on both the sides of the sheet. Now take a flat metallic sheet which is having 2 sides of the metallic sheet. In the center, I am making a slot. The length of the slot is lambda by 2. Now it radiates energy in both the direction when I feed through a transmission line. But if the sheet is very large, unboxed, as shown in figure 2.12, radiation occurs only from one side. Suppose if we place the metallic sheet in the box is having only opening at one end. Through a coaxial line and feeding at the center. The length of the slot is lambda by 2. and the depth of the box is D, approximately equal to lambda by 4 for a thin slot. It is said to be boxed slot antenna. In this case, radiation will occur on only one side. The radiation will not come on the other side because I am having the opening on only one side of the box antenna. So such a slot antenna is called boxed slot antenna. So I am feeding the slot antenna in the form of a box antenna, in the form of a box. That is why it is called boxed slot antenna. So under the topic slot antenna, we saw the introduction, and we saw the how to prepare a slot antenna with respect to a metallic conducting sheet, and working principle of slot antenna, and comparison of polarization between the slot antenna and the dipole antenna, which are complementary to each other. Then we are able to get the total impedance for the slot antenna in terms of ZS and ZD, whereas ZS is the terminal impedance for the slot, D is the terminal impedance for the dipole. When I combine them, I will get for the slot. And methods of feeding slot antenna. So there are three methods of feeding the slot antenna. The first method using a coaxial line. Center feed is available, off center feed is available. When I go for off center feed, impedance matching will be there. There are three types of slot antenna available here. One is the cylindrical slot antenna. So over the surface of the cylinder, a vertical slot will be created through which the transmission line signal will be fed through the transmission line. In such a case, it is called cylindrical slot antenna. The second one is called planar array slot antenna. I want to increase the gain and directivity of the slot antenna. So my option is to go for an array slot antenna, which is shown in figure B. Figure C, we have a annular slot antenna. We have the slot or the opening or the aperture in the form of a circle with a diameter D. In such a case, it is called annular slot antenna. So method 2 feeding is also over. Method 3 feeding, first of all, I take a metallic conducting sheet. I'm trying feeding on one side. I will get the radiation on both the side of the metallic conducting sheet. Suppose if the sheet is found to be very large, I want to put it in a box as shown in the figure. When you put it in a box, radiation occurs on only one side. The depth of the box D should be approximately equal to lambda by 4, and the length of the slot is lambda by 4. So we have seen three feeding method for the slot antenna. So the topic slot antenna is over. The next one is Babinet principle. So we are coming across the second principle so far. The first principle is Huygens principle or field equivalence principle. The second one is Babinet principle. Let us see the statement of Babinet principle. The statement gives when the field behind a screen with the opening is added to the field of a complementary structure, the sum will be equal to the field when there is no screen. So when you see the statement, you may not be able to understand it. See the diagram. Just have a look at the diagram for a minute. There are three cases in the diagram. This portion, case 1. This portion, case 2. This portion, case 3. So what the Babinet principle says, when I combine case 1 and case 2, I will get case 3. That is what the statement given by Babinet principle. So this statement says that there are three cases available, out of which if I am able to combine case 1 and case 2, I will get case 3. Let us see the combination. The first one is source. Second, plane of screen. Plane means a place where we are placing the screen. Third one is a plane where we are observing. So there is a screen placed here. The dark portion is a screen. There is a source available. The source gives light over the screen. I'm able to get a shadow like this in case 1. Plane of screen, plane of source, plane of observation. Actually, this is also a plane. This is one plane where the source is located. This is the plane where the screen is located. This is the plane where we are able to see the shadow. So under case 1, through a source, I am illuminating a screen. I'm getting a shadow at the point B, case 1. Now come to case 2. The same source I'm using, but the screen, I'm going for a complementary screen. This is the normal screen. When I go for a complementary screen, means this position should be open. The up and down portion should be covered. That is why it is called complementary screen. This is a screen, and this one is a complementary screen. We have seen the normal and complementary in the slot antenna. Infinite conducting sheet combined. Slot and lambda by 2 dipole are complementary to each other. When I combine them, I will not get an antenna. When I separate them, I have two antennas. One is slot antenna, another one is dipole antenna. When I combine them, there will be no antenna at all. The same principle is available here. So there is a screen available. I am illuminating the screen by means of a source. I'm getting a shadow, case 1. But in the case of case 2, I'm using a complementary screen. That means here it is open. The up and down is covered. So in that case, I'm getting the shadow like this. When I combine them, case 1 and 2, what will happen? I will not get any screen. I will not get any shadow here. Because when I combine them through the complete plane, there is no screen available. There is no shadow available. But the source is already there. This principle is called Babinett principle. So what they are telling means they are identifying the field from case 1. They are identifying the field from case 2. When they add them, they are getting null field. Consider case 1, where a perfectly absorbing screen is placed in plane A, which has region of a shadow. Let the function be Fs equal to F1 xy z. Case 2, complementary screen F2 xy z. Case 3, no screen is present and the field is given by F3 xy z. So what is F0? When Fs plus Fcs combined, we are getting F0. This principle is called Babinett principle. Let us go to the next topic, topic number 6, horn antenna. So we have come across so far rectangular aperture antenna, uniform aperture, tapered aperture, slot antenna, Babinett principle, field equivalence principle, introduction to aperture antenna, radiation from aperture field. Now we are entering into a category called horn antenna. One of the simplest and the most widely used microwave antenna. That means at microwave frequency, the simplest and the most widely used antenna is nothing but the horn. It is used as a feed element for larger radio astronomy, communication dishes, satellite tracking throughout the world. So whenever you imagine a very bigger antenna available, for example, a dish antenna, tracking over the positions of the satellite, what will happen? There will be a feed. Even you might have seen in the dish antenna, there will be a smaller portion coming out from the dish. The dish is nothing but a reflector. The dish size will be parabolic reflector. But in the center, there will be a rod coming outside with a smaller element, with a smaller rectangular, I think a square or rectangular element will be available. That portion is called feed. That portion is called feed element or feed antenna. So both the feed antenna as well as the dish put together is called dish antenna. If you remove the feed, the dish antenna may not work. So when you talk about the dish antenna, the dish along with the square small size feed is said to be the dish antenna. So the horn is widely used as a feed element for larger radio astronomy, communication dishes, satellite tracking throughout the world. So what do you mean by a horn antenna? You take a waveguide, maybe a rectangular waveguide, or you can take a circular waveguide with a hollow pipe of different cross section, which is flat or tapered into a larger opening. Suppose you are taking a rectangular waveguide, it is having openings at the left and right hand side. In this case, it is a hollow pipe. It is meant for transmitting the signal. Sorry, it is meant for propagating the signal. So your rectangular waveguide does not operate as a radiator or an antenna. I have to do some modification at the one side of the rectangular waveguide. So right hand side, I will take it. I will flare the mouth of the rectangular waveguide. I will taper the mouth of the rectangular waveguide into a larger opening. When I make it as a larger opening, what will happen? Radiation becomes very easier. Radiating energy into the free space becomes comfortable. That is why we are tapering or flaring the into a larger opening at one part or one side of the rectangular waveguide. In such a case, the antenna is said to be horn antenna. As compared with the radiation through transmission line, the radiation through waveguide is very larger. So I will not go for a general transmission line as far as antenna is concerned. So normally I go for a waveguide because waveguide, you know the important difference between transmission line and waveguide. I don't think you'll remember that. Transmission line is used for lower frequency. Waveguide is meant for high frequency. Antennas are meant for high frequency. When antennas is used for high frequency, definitely they will use waveguide rather than a transmission line. So in case of a waveguide, a smaller portion of the incident wave is radiated, a larger portion is reflected back due to the open circuit. So what they are telling means I'm taking a rectangular waveguide. This rectangular waveguide hollow pipe is having left end and the right end. At the left hand side, I am feeding a signal. But at the right hand side, only a part of the signal will be radiated into the free space, be reflected back. Why? Because the mouth, the right hand side mouth, it is not having compatibility with the free space. The mouth is having a constraint. The mouth is very smaller in size. So we have to flare the mouth. We have to taper the mouth into a larger opening so that the left hand side, when I feed the signal into the waveguide, that signal will be radiated more into the free space rather than reflections coming back. As one end of the waveguide is open circuited, impedance matching is not perfect. To minimize the reflection, the mouth of the waveguide is flared or open out so that it assumes the shape like a horn. So when I do flaring at one end of the rectangular waveguide, it becomes a horn antenna. So this is what a rectangular waveguide becoming an antenna. So how to convert a waveguide to an antenna means one end you feed the signal. The other end, you try to flare the mouth of the rectangular waveguide into a larger opening. In such a case, it becomes an antenna. That antenna is said to be horn antenna. So what are the types of horn antennas available? I can classify into two types. One is rectangular horn antenna. The another one is circular horn antenna. How? Because I have two types of waveguide. You know very well, two types of waveguides are available. One is rectangular waveguide. Another one is circular waveguide. When I use rectangular waveguide convert to horn antenna, it is called rectangular horn antenna. When I convert circular waveguide into antenna, it is called circular horn antenna. One more classification with a rectangular horn antenna. Depending upon the direction of the flaring, the rectangular horn can be classified into sectoral horn and pyramidal horn. So I can further classify rectangular horn antennas into two types. One is sectoral horn, another one is pyramidal horn. So what do you mean by sectoral horn? If flaring or tapering is done in only one direction. If I do flaring only in one direction, it is said to be sectorial horn. If I do flaring in both the direction or in all the direction, it is said to be pyramidal horn. So the sectoral horn, I can classify further into two types. One is called E-plane sectoral horn. Another one is called H-plane sectoral horn. The definition is very obvious. When I do flaring in the E-plane, it is said to be E-plane sectorial horn. When I do flaring in the H-plane, it is said to be H-plane sectoral horn. What do I mean by E-plane? Vertical format. What is meant by H-plane? Horizontal format. So when I do flaring in the vertical manner, it is called E-plane sectoral horn. When I do horizontal manner, it is said to be H-plane sectoral horn antenna. When flaring is done along both the wall, it is said to be pyramidal horn antenna. You can see the diagram. Typical horn antennas diagrams are available. This one is E-plane, sectoral horn antenna, H-plane, sectoral horn antenna. See the H-plane, it is horizontal. And see the E-plane, it is vertical in arrangement. See the third one. We are having flaring in both the E plane and H plane. We are having a perfect square at the mouth. A perfect opening at the mouth, square opening. That is why it is called pyramidal horn antenna. Remember, the first 3 times they have been derived from rectangular waveguide. The fourth one from circular waveguide. Since we are using circular waveguide, we are doing flaring here. We are able to get a conical shape. So this antenna is called conical horn antenna. Now, how to design an horn antenna? Let us see the design of a horn antenna. Look at the diagram. Look at the diagram. The cross-section view of a rectangular horn antenna is shown. Now we are going to design a rectangular horn antenna. We are going to have the design equation for a rectangular horn antenna. Using this equation, we can design any horn antenna by ourselves. Now the cross-section is shown. The cross-section view of the rectangular horn antenna is shown in the diagram. So I will explain the diagram. This one is waveguide, rectangular waveguide. Here flaring has been done. So rectangular horn antenna. A is nothing but the dimension of the mouth. A is nothing but the dimension of the aperture opening. The opening of the horn antenna is represented by A. L is nothing but the length of the horn antenna. The length starts from here, it goes to the end of the mouth, L. And psi. Psi is nothing but the flare angle. Suppose you vary psi, the mouth size will be varying. When you vary the mouth, definitely radiation characteristics will be changing. Because the flare angle should be carefully selected in such a way, radiation becomes very smoother, radiation becomes very comfortable into the free space. And see the delta path difference. This one is L. But when you see the end, L plus delta will be added, whereas delta is nothing but the path difference. And see the angle, cos psi by 2. Why psi by 2? I am taking this one as a triangle. This portion as a single triangle. So there are double triangle available. So this angle is psi by 2. So cos of psi by 2 means what? So cos of psi by 2, L by L plus delta. Opposite, adjacent side by opposite side. Pythagoras theorem, L divided by L plus delta. Sin psi by 2, this portion, A by 2. See, the complete mouth is A. This portion is A by 2. So A by 2 divided by L plus delta. The tan psi by 2. Sin psi by 2 divided by cos psi by 2. A divided by 2L. Where psi is nothing but the flare angle. A is nothing but the aperture. L, length of the horn. Delta, path difference. So from the above equation, I will be able to get L equal to A square divided by 8 delta. When delta value very, very less than L. Psi angle equal to 2 tan inverse of A by 2L or 2 cos inverse of L by L plus delta. So this angle psi is known as optimum aperture angle. Because by varying the psi angle, we are able to vary the aperture. We are able to vary the opening. We are able to vary the mouth of the horn antenna. That is why it is called optimum aperture angle. So the directivity of the maximum value can be obtained at the largest flare angle, for which the value delta, they have given the value delta. The delta value should not be greater than 0.25 lambda for E-plane sectorial horn. It should not be greater than 0.22 lambda for conical horn. Should not be greater than 0.4 lambda for H-plane sectoral horn antenna. Now, what are the applications of horn antenna? This horn antenna is used as a feed element in the antenna such as parabolic reflector. So I was telling, in the reflector antenna, there is a primary antenna as well as a secondary antenna. So the primary antenna, the feed element is nothing but the horn antenna. It is used as a feed element in antennas with respect to parabolic reflector. It is most widely used for measurement of antenna parameters in the laboratory. So definitely there is a laboratory for you in the next year. The name of the laboratory is nothing but microwave and electromagnetic fields and microwave laboratory. So in that laboratory, there is an experiment to measure the various antenna parameters. So horn antenna will be used for measurement of antenna parameter. It is the most suitable antenna for various applications in the microwave frequency range, especially with respect to moderate gain. So these are the applications of horn antenna. So under this topic, we have seen introduction to horn antenna, types of horn antenna, that is rectangular, circular, then sectorial horn and pyramidal horn. Under sectorial horn, E-plane and H-plane horn antenna. We are differentiating the E-plane horn antenna and H-plane horn antenna. The diagrams are given. Then design of the horn antenna with respect to its geometrical configuration, psi, L, delta, A, etc. Then we are able to get the expression for psi and L, optimum aperture angle. Then the value of delta, they are given the range of delta for E-plane, H-plane and the conical horn antenna. Then we have seen the applications of the horn antenna. So these are the various subdivisions considered with the horn antenna. We'll go to topic 7, reflector antenna. So there are 3 categories. So by this topic, I am going to conclude the lecture of the day. So there are 3 antennas today. Reflector antenna. One such example is our dish antenna. Our dish antenna is very much typical example for reflector antenna. So under reflector antennas, we are having 3 categories. The first one is plane reflector. Second one is corner reflector. Third one is parabolic reflector. Let us see one by one. Introduction to reflector antennas. These antennas are most important at microwave radiation. But when I go for microwave frequency, the physical size of the antenna become very smaller. So practically any suitable shape reflector can produce desired directivity. So whenever I go for microwave frequency, the size of the antenna becomes very smaller because my requirement is for higher gain and high directivity at high frequency. In such a case, I go for reflector antenna. So in the reflector antenna, another antenna will be required to excite it. Remember, reflector antenna will be having always 2 elements. One is called the primary element, another is called the secondary element. The primary element is for feeding the signal. The secondary element is for reflecting the radiation in the desired direction so that desired gain and directivity can be achieved. So in reflector antenna, we will go for one more antenna. So the antennas such as dipole, horn, slot. See, the basic standard antennas available in the market is dipole antenna, horn antenna, slot antenna. Very simple, basic and standard antennas available. So these antennas we are going to use in combination with the reflector antenna. In such a case, they are called the feed element, or otherwise they are called the primary antenna, while the reflector antenna is called secondary antenna. So when we talk about reflector antenna, there will be primary antenna will be available. So that primary antenna is nothing but the dipole, horn, slot, etc. Various reflector will be the secondary antenna. In general, the reflector antenna can be represented by any geometrical configuration. That means reflector antenna, you can have a dish, you can have a parabolic form, or you can go for a corner reflector, you can go for a plane reflector. So any type of geometrical configuration, you can go for the secondary antenna or reflector antenna. So most commonly used shapes are given here: plane reflector, corner reflector, and parabolic reflector. So generally, 3 reflector antennas will be used in practice. One is called plane reflector, second is corner reflector, third one is parabolic reflector. So using the reflector, I can change the radiation pattern of a radiating antenna can be modified very easily. Moreover, when I go for a reflector antenna, the backward radiations from the antenna can be totally eliminated, thus improving the radiation pattern of the antenna. So let us see the first one, type 1, flat or plane reflector antenna, the simplest form of the reflector antenna. When the plane reflector is kept in front of the feed, the energy will be radiated in the desired direction. It is given in figure 2.16. Look at the figure. Look at the figure for a few seconds. The figure is having 4 types of plane reflector antenna. 4 category which comes under plane reflector antenna. Basically, half-wave dipole is the primary antenna and the plane reflector is the secondary antenna. Both put together is called plane reflector antenna. As I said to you earlier, there are 2 elements available in the reflector antenna. One is called the primary element, another one is called the secondary element. Look at figure number A, plane reflector. This one is the feed. Feed means your dipole, your slot antenna or horn antenna is said to be the feed. The feed is also called primary antenna. So we call it as feed or primary antenna. We have a reflector here. Reflector means a plane reflector. Now I am going to use it at the transmitting side. See, there are 2 types of antennas available. One is for transmission purpose, another one is for reception purpose. But in this case, I am using only for transmitting purpose. So the feed is the primary antenna, which may be a dipole or a slot antenna or a horn antenna. Now this one gives radiation, radiates energy in front of the plane reflector. This plane reflector in turn radiate energy into the free space. That's what I'm telling. This reflector antenna having 2 elements, primary element, secondary element. Primary and the secondary put together is called reflector antenna. But what type of reflector? Since I'm using a plane reflector, it is called plane reflector antenna. It is radiating energy by means of a reflection, by receiving the energy from the feed element and then radiating into the free space. See the second diagram. We are having a half-wave dipole. The half-wave dipole is shown in the figure. There is a transmission line connected to the half-wave dipole for feeding the signal. Why we are going for a transmission line? It feeds the signal into the dipole. There is an aperture opening here. And this one is a reflector. A flat reflector is available. This one is a dipole. The dipole is fed by means of a transmission line. So in front of the dipole, we are having a flat reflector with an aperture opening for connecting the transmission line. So this antenna is said to be the flat reflector antenna. The radiation pattern, the field pattern will be like this. See figure number C. In this diagram, we are having, this is one dipole and this one is another dipole. So we call it as half-wave dipole array. Array means you know it very well, 2 or more symmetrical elements connected to each other. So we are using the half-wave dipole at the top, half-wave dipole at the bottom. There is an aperture opening. Through the opening, transmission line is available. Through the transmission line, it is feeding the dipole. And the reflector is available in front of the dipole. The reflector, the flat reflector is available in front of the dipole, by which we are able to get the radiation pattern in the other direction. And see the last setup. There is an half-wave dipole available. Parallel to the half-wave dipole, we have a flat reflector. There is a smaller reflector placed in adjacent to the half-wave dipole to make a parallel combination. So half-wave dipole with a reflector element. So these 4 category or 4 arrangement, they come under the category plane reflector antennas. To increase the directivity of the antenna, we are keeping a large flat sheet as a plane reflector in front of the half-wave dipole. That is what we have seen in the diagram. In case of the plane reflector, one thing we have to remember is the polarization of the source and the position with respect to the reflector must be important in order to control the radiation characteristics. What they are telling means we are using the primary element, we are using the secondary element. The polarization of the primary antenna and the position of the secondary antenna should be in an aligned manner so that only you will get proper radiation in the opposite direction. Type 2. Second type, corner reflector antennas. The second antenna under reflector antenna. Now, I am moving from plane reflector antenna to corner reflector antenna, then I must know the reason. The disadvantage of the plane reflector is radiation in the back and the side direction. When I use plane reflector antenna, I am getting radiation at the back side and the side direction. To overcome such a situation, to eliminate those radiation, I want to modify the shape of the reflector so that radiation comes in the forward direction only. Because in the forward direction only, I am doing the transmission. So the modified arrangement consists of two plane reflector to form a corner with some angle. Then the reflector is said to be corner reflector. The angle is said to be alpha. It is called included angle. Generally, the included angle will be 90 degree. But in some other application, angle greater than 90 degree is also used. Now we'll have a look at corner reflector antenna, figure number 2. This one is the top view of corner reflector antenna. This one is the front view of the corner reflector. Vertical corner reflector with the field pattern along the main axis. Passive corner reflector without any driven element. So once again I tell you, we are having two elements with respect to reflector antenna. One is called primary element. The second one is called secondary element, or otherwise this is called feed, primary element, driven element, even active element. So all the three mean only the same. See subdivision A, corner reflector, top view. We are seeing the top view of the corner reflector antenna. The dipole will be placed here. There is a reflector here, reflector 1 and reflector 2. They form a corner. The angle is nothing but alpha. It is called included angle. This point is called vertex. The length of the reflector is small letter L. The distance between the vertex and the position of the feed is a capital letter S. So these are the parameters. S, small letter L, and the vertex. So these are the parameters connected with the corner reflector antenna. But one more parameter comes into picture when you go for the front view, height of the reflector also. So there are 4 parameters connected with the corner reflector. One is alpha, included angle. Second one is length of the reflector. Third one, distance between the vertex and the feed. Fourth one, height of the corner reflector antenna, or height of the reflector. This one is the front view. So front view means this portion is left hand side, this portion is right hand side. We are having a dipole in the front. And this one is the side portion of the vertical corner reflector. We have one reflector, another reflector. You can see the center dipole is available. D is nothing but a dipole. Since we are using lambda by 2, it is called lambda by 2 dipole. We are having a transmission line at the center to feed the signal into the dipole. We are having an horizontal radiation pattern, field pattern on the other side. Alpha is the corner angle. D is the driven element. Driven element means feed or dipole. F is nothing but the flange sheet. But look at figure number D, which is totally different from ABC. This figure is totally or radically different from other 3 figures. In this figure, there is no place for the feed element at all. Or in other words, in this figure, we don't have a feed element at all. We are having the corner reflector 1 and 2. There is an included angle or flare angle is available. Some incident wave is coming, falling on the first reflector, getting reflected back to the second reflector, and then radiated into the free space. Angle of incidence, angle of reflection is shown. There is no feed element. There is no driven element available here. So such a corner reflector is called passive corner reflector antenna without any driven element. And by this we will not be able to get the gain and directivity of the desired level. Only with the active corner reflector antenna, it is highly possible to get the gain and directivity in the desired direction. but various, this one will not help us to get the radiation characteristics in the desired direction. So these are the 4 arrangements with respect to corner reflector antenna. Now let us see the dimensions. I already told you the dimensions of the corner reflector. We are having the corner reflector, length of the reflector L, aperture of the corner reflector D, height of the reflector H. The dA value should be lambda by between lambda and 2 lambda. The distance between the feed element and the reflector should be lambda by 2 to 2 lambda. Length of the reflector should be L equal to 2s. Included angle 90 to 180 degree. Radiation resistance depends upon the spacing between the feed and the selector. If the spacing is very large, if I'm keeping the feed element very far away from the corner reflector, unwanted multiple lobes will be produced. Directivity will be lost. When directivity is not there, gain will be lost. Height of the reflector, I mentioned they have given. Height of the reflector is selected about 1.2 to 1.5 times greater than the length of the feed element. That means 1.2 L equal to H. A corner reflector with the 2 flat conducting sheet at a corner angle alpha and a driven element is called active corner reflector. Suppose if you don't use a driven element, it is called passive corner reflector with an angle alpha. Type 3. Parabolic reflector antenna, the third type of the reflector antenna. I would like to improve the overall radiation characteristics of the reflector antenna. So I go for a parabolic structure. Parabola, the meaning for parabola is nothing but a locus of a point which moves in such a way. The distance of the point from the fixed point called focus plus the distance from the straight line called directrix is found to be constant. Look at the figure. For example, Fp plus P dash equal to constant. That is the definition for parabola. Parabola definition they have given distance of the point from the fixed point. Fixed point is focus point to a point, and the distance between this point and the straight line is found to be a constant. That is Fp plus P dash equal to constant. Similarly, Fn plus N dash equal to constant. And Fm plus M dash equal to constant. So that is the definition for a parabola. Definition for a parabola. When the point source is placed at the focal point, the rays reflected by the parabolic reflector form called a parallel wavefront will be produced. This principle is used in the transmitting antenna. Now look at the figure. We are having 3 diagrams here. Subdivision A, geometry of the parabola. B, parabolic reflector at the transmitting end. If I am using parabolic reflector for transmission purpose, this diagram is suitable. This one is for receiving purpose. This parabola, this figure shows the geometry of parabola, how a parabola is constructed using the definition for a parabola. Second one, we are having a feed. Feed means, I was telling you the meaning of feed. Primary element, primary antenna, active element, preferably dipole, horn antenna or slot antenna. So at this place, the feed will be placed. The feed will be giving the radiation, giving the energy to the parabolic reflector. This point is called vertex. So once they fall on the reflector, they will be reflected back. When they come to the directrix point, they will become plane wavefront. Plane wavefront means all the points of the spherical wave will be available ready for radiation. That is why it is called plane wavefront. But in this case, I'm using for the transmitting purpose. That is why it is called parabolic reflector at the transmitting end. See the other case for receiving purpose. We have a parabolic reflector. Incoming electromagnetic wave from the free space is coming here, getting reflected and coming to the focus. Focus are the feed. But here, the feed is giving, transmitting. But here, the feed is receiving using the parabolic reflector. In such a case, it is called receiving parabolic reflector antenna. So working of a parabolic antenna, we have already seen the beam rays When a point source is kept at the focal point, the radiation striking the reflector will be reflected parallel to the axis. So they travel some distance to reach the mouth of the reflector. So after the mouth of the reflector, you will have a uniform plane wavefront available ready for transmission into the free space. The open end of the parabolic reflector is called aperture, and see the time taken by the reflected ray to travel a distance up to the directrix of the parabola is same. So whichever electromagnetic wave coming inside, they will take the same time to travel the directrix. From that, it will radiate into the free space. It means all the reflected rays are found to be in phase. So this parabolic reflector is the most effective microwave antenna which gives the concentrated radiation beam along the axis of the parabola. So today we have seen the slot antenna, definition for slot antenna, introduction to slot antenna, methods of feeding slot antenna. We have seen three methods of feeding the slot antenna. Method 1 using coaxial line, cylindrical slot antenna, boxed slot antenna, and babonet principle. In the babonet principle, we are combining case 1 and case 2 to get case 3. And we went to horn antenna, introduction to horn antenna, types of horn antenna. Basically, there are two types, rectangular and circular. Rectangular converted into sectoral E plane and H plane. Various geometrical configuration of the horn antennas are available. Then we got the design equation for the horn antenna, especially L, A, delta, as well as psi. Using this parameter, we'll be able to design the equations for a particular horn antenna, especially in this case, rectangular horn antenna, applications of horn antenna, and reflector. Reflector antenna, three types are there. Plane reflector antenna, four arrangements are possible. In order to eliminate the backward and the sideward direction, we go for corner reflector. So in the corner reflector, one more parameter comes into picture, distance S, flaring angle alpha, length L, H, height of the corner reflector. Then we have some constraint on the dimensions of the corner reflector. Type 3, parabolic reflector. Parabola definition, parabolic reflector at the transmitting side. When I use parabolic reflector as a receiver, what will happen? So by which we are able to get a concentrated radiation beam when I use a parabolic reflector antenna. So any difficulty with today's topic? Any difficulty with today's topic, you can put it in the chat box.